Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 16 must-start and must-sit players for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we'll begin by discussing my must-start players of the week, and then about halfway into the video, we're going to be pivoting into my must-sit players based upon their matchups for week number 16. But before we could get on into things, I would like to ask if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 16 must-start and must-sit players. We begin with the must-start category, headlined by running back of the Philadelphia Eagles, Miles Sanders, going up against the New York Football Giants this week in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders has been the definition of inconsistency all season long, though over the last two games, the team has fully committed to Miles Sanders being the lead back, as he has had over 15 and a half PPR points in both of those last two games. Last week, he had 18 rushes for 131 yards, as well as having 2 receptions for 15 yards. This strong performance came even with Jordan Howard active, which was a big reason as to why I was a bit hesitant to play Miles Sanders last week, because we have seen all season long that when we have Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard both active at the same time, that while Miles Sanders will be seeing some work, there's a good chance that Jordan Howard is magically just thrown into the game, because for some reason, Nick Sirianni just loves giving the ball to Jordan Howard. But at the end of the day, last week, we really saw a strong committal to Miles Sanders, which gives me full confidence that going up against the Giants defense that ranked 29th up against the run in rush DVOA, I believe that the Giants are going to get smacked up by Miles Sanders, and I expect him to have an excellent performance this week. So I love Miles Sanders. That is why he's a must-start running back on the week. My next must-start is Amon-Ra St.Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Atlanta Falcons this week in Atlanta. It has been very difficult to decipher which wide receiver to start from the Lions all season long. There have been flashes from St.Brown, flashes from Khalif Raymond, as well as Josh Reynolds. However, St.Brown has had over 11 targets in all of his last 3 games. Last week, St.Brown had 8 receptions on 11 targets for 90 yards, as well as a touchdown. This week, he goes up against the Atlanta Falcons, who ranked 31st in pass DVOA. There's only one team worse than them up against the pass, so it should be easy to see a dominant performance from Amon-Ra St.Brown. It's pretty easy to see. All you see is the fact that the matchup is amazing, the 31st ranked pass defense in the NFL, plus the fact that Amon-Ra St.Brown is just being peppered with targets game in and game out. I love him this week up against the Atlanta Falcons. My next must-start is Tom Brady, quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going up against the Carolina Panthers this week in Carolina. Last week was a complete and utter unmitigated fucking disaster for Tom Brady and the whole Buccaneers offense. Not only did they lose, but they lost Chris Godwin for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. They also lost Mike Evans for an unknown amount of time with a hamstring injury. Leonard Fournette is also likely to be placed on the injured reserve with a hamstring injury. In that game, Tom Brady had 26 completions on 48 attempts for 214 yards and an interception. Even with all of the bad that went down last week, I believe Tom Brady will have a huge bounce-back performance this week up against the Carolina Panthers. Antonio Brown will be returning this week, and based upon everything that I have read, it seems like Antonio Brown hasn't lost a step at all and is going to be just fine to be jolted into the role as the number 1 wide receiver on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to fill in for Leonard Fournette, we have Ronald Jones, who is a fine substitute in my opinion. So fire up Tom Brady with supreme confidence. I understand that he may have screwed you over last week. I understand, oh, Nick, it may be a little bit obvious that you want to be starting Tom Brady. Duh, of course you do, but I saw a lot of panic from people about Tom Brady based upon his performance last week. So start him with confidence this week. Don't be scared about one down game up against the New Orleans Saints. Fire him up against the Carolina Panthers. My next must-start player is Kmet, tight end of the Chicago Bears, going up against the Seattle Seahawks this week in Seattle. Kmet has averaged 8 targets per game over the last 4 weeks. Last week, he had 6 receptions on 9 targets. Very nice, 6 of 9 for 71 yards. This week, they face up against the Seattle Seahawks, who are atrocious up against the tight end position. On the season, they allow an average of 7.5 targets for 5.57 receptions, 57.21 yards per game, and 0.57 touchdowns on a per game basis. Expect a high volume game for Kmet this week, and expect very similar numbers to last week where he had 6 receptions on 9 targets for 71 yards. I really do like this matchup for Kmet, and I like Kmet to finish strong on the season. But before we could pivot into the must-sit players of today's video, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Just click the link down below to redeem. If you would like immediate access, all you got to do is email support@awesemo.com and we will get you set up. You can also receive up to a $100 first match deposit bonus with Yahoo as part of their 12 days of winning. When you use promo code XMIS100, that is promo code XMIS100, one word, for up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. Use part of that bonus to enter tonight's $100,000 Thursday Night Football baller with $25,000 going to first place. Make sure that you use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give you guys the best shot at winning big. So back on into the video, we begin with the must-sit category headlined by Saquon Barkley, running back of the New York Football Giants, going up against the Philadelphia Eagles this week in Philadelphia. Barkley has been one of the biggest busts of the 2021 fantasy football season. Even with the injuries taking multiple games from his season, he has only had a few games on the year when he was healthy. Last week, he had 15 rushes for 50 yards and 4 receptions on 8 targets for 24 yards, as well as having a fumble lost in that game. Barkley is dealing with an ankle injury and has seen less than 55% of snaps in both of the last 2 games. Even though it may be difficult to bench Saquon Barkley because, oh, it's Saquon Barkley, you always feel like the guy could just magically become his old self, run for 125 yards, and score 2 touchdowns. And I feel that as well. But you have to understand, you're in the fantasy playoffs. You don't want to risk it by starting a guy like Saquon Barkley, who isn't even a workhorse running back at this point in the season. So just go ahead and sit down Saquon Barkley up against the Philadelphia Eagles. My next must-sit is Tyler Conklin, tight end of the Minnesota Vikings, going up against the LA Rams this week. Conklin has been a player getting a bit of buzz over the last 2 weeks with Adam Thielen banged up. This week, it is still very unknown if Adam Thielen will end up playing, but reports point towards him having a solid shot of getting the nod to go up against the LA Rams. Conklin has yet to score over 10 half PPR points since week number 10. That's like 6 weeks ago. And it is hard to see that changing, that he will miraculously, up against the LA Rams, have a smash matchup, especially if Adam Thielen is back. So in my opinion, I believe that you guys should be staying clear away from him up against the LA Rams defense this week. My next must-sit is Matt Ryan, quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, going up against the Detroit Lions this week at home in Atlanta. Now, since Matt Ryan's phenomenal performance in week number 9, he has failed to eclipse 14 points since then. Last week, he had 19 completions on 32 attempts for 236 yards and a touchdown, even in a great matchup up against the Detroit Lions. In a matchup that basically any quarterback could smash, my trust in Matt Ryan is at an absolute 0. If there was ever a game that he could bounce back, it would be this week. But in my opinion, there are just so many quarterbacks available on the waiver wire that you could pick up over Matt Ryan, so there's virtually no need to play Matt Ryan. I understand that the matchup is great, but the guy just has not played well. Again, since week number 9, he hasn't eclipsed over 14 points. That's just not good at all. So my final must-sit is Jeudy, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders this week in Las Vegas. The passing attack of the Denver Broncos has been lackluster all season long. Their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, does not try to push the ball deep down the field, so the wide receivers have been struggling mightily. Since Bridgewater is hurt, Drew Lock is going to take over, but even with the change at the quarterback position, it is very hard to be confident in Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, any of these wide receivers of the Denver Broncos. Last week, Jeudy had 4 targets for a grand total of 0 receptions. He put up 0 total points. Over his last 4 games, he has seen below a 75% snap share in all of those games, making it even harder to put any bit of confidence into starting Jeudy. I think maybe next year they draft a new quarterback, they bring Aaron Rodgers in or something, then bada bing, bada boom. Jeudy has the upside to be a top 12 wide receiver, but with the situation he is in right now, with such a run-heavy team with the 2 running backs of Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, I think it's very stupid to be starting Jeudy right now, so go ahead and sit him down on the bench. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying enjoying, please make sure to hit that like button as well as that subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys check out Yahoo Fantasy. The link is down below in the description. Make sure you follow me on Twitter if you enjoyed at NotoriousFNTSY. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I love you guys all. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, guys, goodbye.